and establishes a puppet government over the Queen's protests. The U.S. Marines are going to land because they have a prearranged plan with 30 criminals, okay, insurgents, Sanford Dole, Lauren Thurston. They're going to commit the crime of high treason. And they're going to say they overthrew the government, but have the U.S. military protect them. Now, the reason why they want that is so that the U.S. ambassador is going to recognize them as the real government of Hawaii and warn the Queen, you attack them, you attack the United States. The reason why he's doing that, because the military wants Pearl Harbor. So they're going to fabricate a situation. So it's like going into Switzerland and trying to take over the banking system through a puppet government. They're going to try to take over the military, they're going to try to take over Hawaii's strategic territory for military purposes. Now, these individuals are then going to be recognized by the ambassador, which allows them to go to Washington, D.C., and on February 14th, just 1 month later, in Washington, D.C., they're going to sign a treaty of cession, transferring all of Hawaii to the United States. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And President Harrison at that time is going to submit that treaty to the United States Senate for approval. That's part of the process of United States law. Even though you sign a treaty, you still have to approve the treaty. Now what happens is, on March 11th, President Cleveland is notified of the Queen's protest. And he realizes that a foreign state, head of state, has just protested on the record against the incursion of the U.S. military. See, I used to be a captain in the Army. I understand fully if you go into a sovereign state and land without authority, that is an act of war. We used to do training in Korea. You better make sure the Korean government gave you consent. If they didn't, things are going to happen. In this case, Hawaii could have experienced bloodshed, and the Queen knew that. Okay? So she yielded her authority and directed the president to investigate, because she didn't want to have bloodshed. So what happens is this protest is now in the hands of Grover Cleveland, and Grover Cleveland then goes to the U.S. Senate, takes that treaty out, and says, you're not going to look at this, or you can entertain it until I find out what happened in Hawaii, because the head of state just protested. So he appointed James Blunt. You ever heard of the Blunt Report? Yeah. Okay, the Blunt Report, that's him, James Blunt. This guy is going to be a special commissioner sent to Hawaii to investigate what's going on. Now, James Blunt is the former chairman of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, which means he understands international law and international relations. He knows exactly what it takes to transfer sovereignty. But he's also going to investigate, did the troops land illegally? Because if they did, then everything thereafter is illegal. Right. He's also a former representative of Georgia. Now, the investigation concluded, okay, it was sent to Cleveland. Basically, that international law was violated by the U.S. Minister is ambassador at that time, and the U.S. troops. That the provisional government was neither de facto nor de jure, but self-proclaimed. That is, these are two specific terms used by President Cleveland in that investigation and conclusion. De facto means you were a successful revolution. He says they were neither. De jure is you were the lawful government. Not. You were not. But you were self-proclaimed, which means you were criminals. Self-proclaimed people are criminals. You just committed treason. The United States must make all possible reparations and must restore the Hawaiian Kingdom government to the status it was before the U.S. troops landed. This is all going to be put in an agreement with the Queen. Okay? That agreement is going to be made between the Queen and the President. But the President is not going to follow through with that agreement, which is an agreement on international law, because a lot of things are happening in Washington, D.C. Now, the Congress is going to prevent Cleveland from restoring the government. And Hawaiian nationals and the Queen rely on that agreement to their detriment. The provisional government gains strength, and the U.S. Senate warns other countries. Remember all those embassies that Hawaii had? Over 90 of them? Well, the U.S. Senate is going to pass a resolution on May 16, 1894. Resolve that any intervention in the political affairs of these islands by any other government will be regarded as an act unfriendly to the United States. So the U.S. Congress is still looking at how to get Hawaii as a military installation. So they're buying time. Okay? Now, when Hawaii is thrown into political unrest, things are very tense back then in Hawaii. You got these individuals now calling themselves the Republic of Hawaii. They're still criminals. Yeah? They're self-proclaimed. They're going to sign a second treaty of cession with another president, William McKinley. He's in office. Another attempt to transfer Hawaii. But that treaty also needed to be approved by the U.S. Senate. Well, in June of 1897, the Queen files protests in Washington, D.C. She's actually in Washington at this time. And additional protests were filed by the Hawaiian Patriotic League and the Hawaiian Political Association with the U.S. State Department. So clearly seeing protests still coming from the people. But McKinley is still determined to annex. He wants Hawaii because he wants the military installations built up. And that's what activates the Hawaiian Patriotic League, which is the basis of the play that you're going to see, and the basis of the article that was in the San Francisco Call. The Hawaiian Patriotic League was both women and men. The Men's Patriotic League was headed by James Kaulia. He succeeded the founder of the Patriotic League in 1893, Joseph Navahi. Okay? Now Navahi was arrested by the Republic of Hawaii, these self-proclaimed people. Put in a prison, he contracted tuberculosis. Traveled to California, tried to get well, he died. James Kaulia took over. Now these guys are attorneys and also representatives from the Hawaiian legislature. They're fully fluent in Hawaiian politics. Very amazing. And also the Women's Patriotic League. And that's headed by Mrs. Campbell, Kuai Hilari Campbell as the president, and Joseph Navahi's wife, Miss Aima Navahi, as the secretary. And you're going to see these people in this play because the article is a reflection of a meeting of the Women's Patriotic League in Hilo, Hawaii in 1898 regarding the Treaty of Annexation and the second attempt to take Hawaii. And they come up with a signature petition. This petition is going to be signed by 21,000 people. Another petition by the Hawaiian Political Association is going to be signed by 17,000 people. Clearly a majority of the Hawaiian subjects at that time. And you're going to see people who signed this that are not necessarily native Hawaiian. You see the guy's name right here? Henry Dole. Interesting, huh? Must be his cousin, Sanford Dole's cousin. He say, I got nothing to do with my cousin over here. He's a criminal. Now, because of these protests that were submitted to the U.S. Senate, that signature petition and the Queen's protests, it killed the treaty. The U.S. Senate could not approve the treaty. Now, at this point, you have two attempts to transfer Hawaii's sovereignty. 1893, they overthrew the government, but they didn't get the sovereignty. They had to try to get it two times by treaty accession. The first treaty failed because of Cleveland's investigation. The second treaty failed because of protests. So is Hawaii, at this point in time, in 1898 March, still a separate and sovereign country? Yes, so you see two attempts, though, failed attempts to transfer that sovereignty. But the very next month, things are going to change. The Spanish-American War breaks out. Now they need Hawaii as a military outpost because Admiral Dewey defeats the Spanish fleet in Manila Bay in the Philippines. They need Hawaii as a staging point. So on May 1st, 1898, U.S. House Representative Francis Newlands, he's from Nevada, is going to submit a joint resolution to annex Hawaii, a joint resolution. Okay? But a joint resolution is not a treaty. A joint resolution is an American law. A joint resolution is actually a law agreed to between the Senate and the House of Representatives. And it goes to the President for signature. The problem is, well, they justify it by taking Hawaii in order to fight the Spanish in Guam and the Philippines. The problem we have here is that the joint resolution is not a treaty. Okay? How can a joint resolution annex a foreign country? Can America pass a law today annexing Canada? Can Canada pass a law today annexing America? What does not allow that? Sovereignty. Good thing Kamehameha III got sovereignty recognized in 1843. Yeah? Well, they're going to justify the joint resolution even though it's not a treaty. Captain Alfred Mahan from the U.S. Naval War College, he's going to say, if we preoccupy the Hawaiian Islands, fortifications could preserve them to us. He's saying that to the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Then you have General Schofield Barracks. That's him. He says, if we do not occupy and fortify Pearl Harbor, our enemy, Spain, will occupy it as a base from which to conduct operations against our Pacific coast, meaning take Hawaii before Spain attacks us.